The intention is to make this as interactive and interesting as possible. I don't think anybody sent us recommendations or anything to change on the program, so we are assuming either it will change as we go on or we are sticking to what the D&I suggested. George and I will lead the sessions tutabadilishana as we continue.
We're going to start with a challenge first. You have several scenarios here. Imagine yourself being confronted by these scenarios. Catherine, so you're going to make it spontaneous. Yes. So get ready. Anyone can be called. Catherine, you're going up the floor. You've meant to found a funder from downstairs moving up to Fahamu. You have only 1 minute to tell them about participatory budget. You've met the funder down there, downstairs. You're climbing up with them. I think their face. You only have 1 minute to explain to them participatory budget.
The person could slot me in for like 10 minutes and just tell them about this program that we have, which we think they'd be interested in. Just take the conversation from the stairs and move it into the office or somewhere we can talk.
Right. You've met a veteran organizer. He's a citizen. Tell them something new about Fahamu.
Okay, first I will introduce myself, then tell them this organization called Fahamu, and we deal with social movements, and we believe in the theory of change. And I tell him about a little about maybe Bunge la Mwananchi as an example. So I tell them how we can try and support them, because our motto is supporting movements and trying to take the conversation further. Yeah, so I will try to get to change contact so that we can meet in another avenue.
Explain to Kimathi, your son. Okay, I think he's a bit older. Why you went to the devil last week?
I think I would tell him the main reason was because someone has to stand up for and show passion for the country, and show outrage when injustices are being seen to be perpetrated. And I feel that as a citizen, I have a responsibility to do that. And if I have that, if I have the opportunity, the energy, and the time, then I should do it. I should stand up.
So, Eve, you have been arrested in Algeria. You were holding a forum that you've been accused of holding an illegal meeting with social media. How do you get yourself out of this situation?
First of all, Algeria now is going through a lot of political problems because of the government dealing with what they call radical Islamism. And from what the law says, there is nothing which prohibits people meeting and discussing political affairs of the country. So that in that case, then someone says, I've had an illegal meeting. What do you consider illegal meeting? You meant as citizens of Nigeria or citizens of Africa discussing about issues. So in that case, we don't have any illegal gathering.
You've been banned from entering Mali for wearing the Pambazika crest, bearing to the future. How would you explain to the future what future you're bearing to? You're not doing the French or the rebels. How would you explain to the future you're bearing to?
First, the first challenge I have is them understanding what I'm saying in English, because my French is so there's going to be that problem of breakdown of communication. But that said, at that point when I'm going to a place like that where it's new and I know what I'm going for, I'll have to be mindful of, say for example, if I'm going for workshops or something, I'll have it in the local language which they understand. So then what I'm coming to do is I'm not going to hit the streets. Of course, I will probably hit the streets to other people, but so I'm not going to hit the streets. I'm going in peacefully, and if I'm supporting social movements, this is what we're going to be doing, like maybe training them or just engaging with them. So, but when I'm traveling to a place like that, I would want to be met inside by somebody from that country who understands what he's saying.
Insights we draw from. That's nice. And our responses. What observation?
I think I like the question. Any program in one minute. Because we should be able to say that's it. What is us do ABC? What is realization? So I think that's 1 minute. It's very. I mean, I found it very interesting. So I think it was a very nice exercise because you kind of write in one sentence. This program says two, and then.
And also to apply the theories that we believe in practically and be able to respond to issues that come up. So we should be aware of everything that everyone else is doing so that we can be able to respond in case someone is not around. So it should be a practice part of it, apart from the theory.
I think I have been challenged by Lisa and Catherine, because now I feel like I have to find a way of packaging PB in 2 lines, because she was like, wow, where do I start? So yes, that's a challenge to me. A challenge from Lisa because I don't think any of us should say I am not a human rights. All of us are, the way I think of it, horizontal when it comes to issues. Management we might have, but in terms of anyone, all of us can deal with a humane situation. Does not really have to be program or so. The challenge to me is for us all to be able to be on that page where I don't have to be in this office or Winnie or Paul for anyone to get the kind of
The values that we say we stand for is correct. Inclusiveness, Pan-Africanism, feminism. And Pan-Africanism is one of the interesting ones, because if you see the trend that African leaders have now, especially this year, is trying to show that, okay, we can do without these guys, or let's at least consolidate what we have. So it's very important that we know, like, all these example questions they're asking us, Mali, Nigeria, I don't know, Zambia. You don't need to understand everything, but at least something which is in the headline, just to see the connections between things that we have. Like I was saying, I saw something on Friday or Saturday where this US secretary was talking about Nigeria. And all of a sudden said, how this random comments, everyone is focusing on Syria, how it's all the problem, and then when they were dealing with the Boko Haram, just from nowhere, a comment came, this train on. So I was wondering, how will these things connected? So I think it's just, since we are professionals, we have to be a little bit.
You're saying is maybe I'm jumping the ground. Maybe like on a weekly basis, you just pick an issue and just do week at a glance, thoughts of the week, and we just a one pager, something simple. And that's if we do it on a weekly basis and you keep it simple, it makes it interesting. Like this week we're talking about Pan-Africanism. Just send two paragraphs. Next week we want to talk about PB in Kwale, just 2 paragraphs, so making it simple. Whatever issue that's at the back of your mind, look at it like maybe like a simple blog, but internal, that just highlights different issues and kind of also makes everybody familiar with the different issues that we deal with and can even deal with. Even if we don't have the money, potential. We have potential to deal with other issues besides what we're dealing with now.
Our responses were maybe you need to be sharper. We need to do more. I feel I need to indulge more in the fund. So I was wondering, as you say, like we advance the same questions over a period of time. That could be helpful for us to have a collective position, but collective understanding and responsibility to, if we are faced with such scenarios, how can we respond? And many other scenarios that emerge. And maybe make it a practice that we provoke each other into thinking based on certain scenarios. We want to think about where are we? Where can you see Fahamu in this one? So we have certain codes. We have yellow color. We have red. Let's call this red. For purposes of this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. And for purposes of this exercise, we call this one blue. That's the key. This is red. Yellow. So yellow, red. Now think about where are we present. So if we are somewhere present, blue. Yeah. If we are somewhere in Kenya here, apple. So everyone will have to put somewhere a pin. So
You put and you tell us where.
Just to be somewhere else other than somewhere where we
Yeah, you can't repeat where.
So imagine about our program. Fahamu's program. Fahamu's
Blue
program.
is where we are.
Yeah.
Blue is where we are.
Blue is where we are.
Yeah.
So where are we? Where can you see us? If you
Where else can we be? Is what
Just
I'm
in the world.
in the world,
Where?
where can you visually see Fahamu?
Where are we right now?
Right
Phil?
now.
Yes, if you went and said,
We are
this is in
here.
your hour.
So come and put a blue.
And tell
Any
us.
volunteer? And tell us why.
See the man who travels the most amazing things.
He was in Nigeria.
America.
Wow. Why? Tell us. Explain why.
You can ask Roy if you read, if you see online how many the biggest readership of African countries you have. It's in the USA.
Tena zile za wewe wachapite.
Maybe it connects us, huh? Right.
Texas.
Brazil.
Trust Paul.
Brazil.
claim
Yeah.
this territory.
Okay.
So here we have Pambazuka leadership, our Portuguese edition. We also have a Pambazuka editor.
Alexandra.
Let me add. The peasants need it.
Are we connected to that?
No, but we are one.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But with we are the solution. We are the solution works with La Via Campesina.
So that's another thing, another pin entirely.
No,
that
no, no, no.
explains
We have finished
differently.
with Brazil now.
But it's a different program.
But it's still Brazil.
Cuba.
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 In between America and South America and North America.
Why Cuba?
That's
Oh my God.
North America and South America.
Why Cuba? Because movement in Cuba is not that easy. You can't just wake up and decide you want to America. It's a whole process. And I feel it's really against human rights that I can't decide today I want to go on a tour to Hawaii and I have to go through, I almost have to be actually approved. It has to be approved by the government that you have to move from Cuba into any other country, even to get a passport.
But are we present as Fahamu?
Can we not be?
That's another question. That's another
The other
question.
question is,
Yeah.
the other question,
That's another question.
where should we be?
Yeah, and that's the next one.
Okay, put
Ah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
just hold on, huh?
Yes. So that
We do the blue part.
right now we're doing where are we?
Where are we at?
Right
just,
now.
Just hold on that. Huh?
So
Roy,
Okay.
we just you said.
If tutaweka tu
Okay, so
explain.
you said Roy.
Where am I saying?
You okay?
Where?
UK.
You have a physical, you have a physical office, plus Pambazuka Press, mostly what we sell goes out mostly in the UK. So most of our content is goods are sold in the UK.
put China because of emerging powers. We have many academia colleagues who are researchers. China and they have been exchanging academia, media.
I put UG
Okay.
because I think Catherine's project is trying to recruit the Sex Workers Leadership Institute is trying to recruit guys from there.
Can add also, we have members of SOA,
Yeah.
Fahamu Africa,
Where? In UG?
UG.
Okay.
We did do some training with George there.
Even Zimbabwe. A lot of Africans in Somalia.
Yeah, accountability.
We can have you for all of Africa.
Exchange.
Somalia.
I mean, Djibouti.
Actually,
Okay. Say Zimbabwe because of the accountability project.
Where?
Zimbabwe.
Okay.
She said Somalia?
Ethiopia.
that's in Somalia. If I wanted to say Horn of Africa in
Horn
general.
of Africa. Ethiopia, Horn of Africa.
Because of?
Some?
First was, you can do a lot of food security issues in Horn of Africa. So what comes into mind?
Are we saying we cannot? We are doing.
We are doing.
It's blue. We are.
Oh, I think I'm really in the...
No,
I really want to
for us.
we can.
Yeah.
Tanzania?
Okay.
No, it's yellow.
Ah.
Is it yellow?
Tanzania, we have a lot of things.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a strong sex worker movement.
Okay.
Namibia.
Ah,
Libya, with the NBC.
Yeah, in the sex worker.
Okay.
Zambia, we have already registered Zambia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Burundi.
Yeah,
I
we
like that
have-
most of them are in Africa.
We
Nice.
have our colleagues who are coming for accountability, and they have been having so many SOA stuff.
Russia.
Mozambique, hatuna nini?
Zambia capacity.
Mozambique, see, we had said we were going to look for someone from Mozambique to do the Portuguese. Did we
Actually,
ever do
with
it?
with Sotu,
Yeah.
my boss in Sotu, she's in Zambia.
And is he?
I want to go to Western Sahara.
Dola Kenya.
No, the other version.
Yes.
Portuguese.
Western Sahara.
It's ready with Mozambique
Oh,
and
okay.
Angola.
The reason why
Yes.
Mozambique.
Mozambique, Angola, and Brazil, we have the leaders of
Mozambique.
so Western Sahara we've been supporting. We actually one of the few voices around, especially on TV. On this
Okay, I was going to ask you.
supporting the struggle against. You know, they're the only colony left now.
Who?
Colony of Western Sahara.
Okay.
Canada?
No.
I think we've had 3/4 of our interns. Busy interns from Canada.
Yeah.
That means we have a leadership, a wide leadership.
Mozambique is there.
Yes.
In Germany.
In Germany,
South Africa.
Frankfurt.
You are reading it from there.
Shukala is from there.
Yeah, we have many funders, supporters from.
South Africa.
Arelepa, yes.
Germany. Okay. Now, hold
I
on.
have one.
Look at
India.
India.
Yes. For the same reason as China.
Yes.
Imagine. When I'm just saying South Africa.
Okay.
Oh, we did.
You didn't shout.
We did it.
You're in Cape Town. You have a
Cape
presence
Town,
in
and
presence in Cape Town. Okay. That's it.
Aye.
Okay, Sudan, we have
Ah,
friends
we get some more blues. Okay, now we are thinking about where should we be and we are not. Which color would you propose? Ah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Magic, magic.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
connected with red now.
Magic, that was what
Look at red.
because some.
Red is an easy color.
Yeah, to see. Yeah, who looks red?
Okay,
Green is
ADF is there.
Judge.
right?
Draw a line.
Use red. Red
You
is
see where Cuba is?
Let's look at the blue first to see. What are you saying, bro?
Judge, if you drew a line from there, Mexico, huh? And then it went up like that, and then you mark the global north and the global south. So we should be in all the global south. Just for solidarity purposes, because we are in some of the same struggles we are in. we actually share the same struggles, especially on corporates, capitalism and all that exploitation that comes in that. So the whole of South America,
Yeah. Latin America.
From Mexico down there, the whole of Africa, the whole
Before you
of,
put pens.
the whole of India, but exclude Australia.
Can I want to challenge.
Why
I
Australia?
agree with him in principle, but I think the challenge we've had as Fahamu is that kind of generalization. I would wish for us to be a bit more specific, so that if I say Ecuador, I'm saying exactly why, because there's the for instance, indigenous communities that is a little bit more specific to me, and that helps me as I go to sit on my desk. I'm thinking, oh, the indigenous Maasais can link up with, that kind of thing. So as opposed to, because truth be told, we should be everywhere in the world, because there's injustice everywhere in the world. But that being specific helps us think much more forward in terms of linkages, projects, blah, blah, blah.
Catherine?
I think
I agree totally.
we are not in Ethiopia and we should be there because of the latest persecution of LGBT and sex workers. It's becoming an international concern. Yeah, so I think maybe our presence there would maybe help to quell things and probably give the activists their skills with which they could use to operate safely.
So the picture says that while we might think we have Africa covered, we are yet to cover Africa, because in Ethiopia we have a lot of engagement with the AU.
Yes.
But with the movements, I
No.
don't think we have.
This will sound a little pessimistic, but you asked where we are not, but we should be. I feel Africa, we are in Africa, but in essence we're still not in Africa, especially Kenya, because not very many people know about our work. If we say the Pambazuka leadership is a lot in the US, then why not in Kenya, where, let's say, we are based? Yeah, so to me, that's like I don't know, flipping the coin. We are in Kenya, but still we're not yet in Kenya. Because a lot of people still are not aware about Fahamu.
Yeah, put a
People know Pambazuka.
Yeah.
Put a red. Ethiopia, Kenya. Where else should we be and we are not? All over this world.
I was going to say that just from what you say, especially from the We Are the Solution campaign, it can greatly benefit from the Latin American experience. Because apart from, even for the sort of we are doing, there have been so many campaigns on land issues, especially between the indigenous Indians and the Spaniards and others. So,
Thinking Bolivia.
so the Bolivia, Ecuador, all the most of the, especially like Bolivia, now that they have, after 500 years of white rule, now they have an indigenous president. So who is trying to look at the rights of the indigenous? So I think when we are talking about historical injustices of the land, but also looking at the way indigenous farmers are trying to protect their smallholder farmers, for We Are the Solution, and so too can benefit from
How is the movement in the South, in the Latin America?
Of course, very strong in
It's
terms of.
people.
I think you've seen for the social, you have gone for the World Social Forum. The biggest consistency we have is from Latin America. And if we want to keep on doing this World Social Forum as an annual event, then we can have big solidarity with the Latin Americans.
So Paul, just back to you. You put a disclaimer, not.
Yeah, now that we are doing specific struggles to link up, I think there's also indigenous people in Australia struggling on land and other injustices. in Canada as well.
Yeah. The First Nation.
And then also in Canada, there's groups that are pressuring. Some are linked to it with the indigenous movements, but they are putting pressure on their own governments in terms of pollution, land pollution, and extractive industries. So those would be good people to link up in terms of also pressuring their governments in their countries to stop doing what they're doing in Congo or whatever.
Yeah.
So Tanzania.
Yeah, many companies that are extracting minerals are from Canada. Tiomin is a Canadian brand.
I just remember that.
Registered in somewhere else, but it's a Canadian.
Can I say it?
So,
I just remember a joke. When you remember when, because like when we take the waste in a box, like whole waste is bad, exploiting us. And then so these Canadians in Paris, they will say, no, don't just put us in the same box. We have the same struggles. We are advocating for against these multinational blah blah blah. So we find that I found it very interesting just to know that some people in the West are actually saying, okay, we are together with you. Don't just put us in the same box.
United States, I mean the civil rights movement. Have we exploited the lessons and
Not enough.
not enough? And there are still many movements that are very active in the
Can I make a suggestion or probably a recommendation? I would say Zimbabwe, and this is to the Soto team. I think we have a lot to learn from the land struggle, negative, positive, from the land reform process in Zimbabwe, and this is probably people we should start looking to engage. I know right now we're focusing on Kenya, consolidating our efforts, but moving forward, I think there's a lot to learn from Zimbabwe. I think South Africa, extraction. Look at what happened in, is it Marikani? I can never get that name. Marikani. I don't think we've capitalized on that heat, on that, that kind of mobilization. Considering we are Pan-African, this is when we should have started thinking about who do we link up with, who do we start talking to. So I think in those two countries, there's a lot that Fahamu could learn moving forward in terms of mobilizing.
There's a coalition partner in South Africa. Zimbabwe is not
Southern African Trust. But I had an addition for the. Remember when we were debating about starting a workers' rights program, and in South Africa it has been strong because of their trade unions. Of course, now they are polarized because of politics and everything. But in terms of them organizing, it's a strong one that we could learn from in terms of the workers' rights.
And I'll share with you material I got from one of the organizations working with the Marikana workers. And COSATU has lost its legitimacy. And Marikana event,
I wanted actually.
Marikana event is forming a new movement around workers, separate from COSATU.
COSATU is now corrupt.
Okay, yeah.
Actually, the biggest member of COSATU is the miners union. No, they are now working with
Let
the
me ask
government and the mining companies to oppress the miners. So that's why they're forming parallel unions.
She has a question?
No, I was going to ask in form of a question. I know we haven't said the north, and we've been talking about forming links to the north.
North Africa.
But question is, these linkages we are forming, is it because it's the new place to be, nobody has explored, and it's the new, because of all the revolutions and the waves, the political waves that are going around in South Africa, that's why they want to be involved. Because I really don't see them trying to reach out to us. It's usually vice versa. All we talk about is Egypt and Libya and, but I haven't had anyone from Libya trying to make linkages with us, especially when we have our own semi-political, or just trying to engage. It's just not politics. I'm sure we have a lot of the same things with the struggles that we do. but I don't see the same.
Um,
It's Jew, but it's not. Kairudi chini. So these linkages we are trying to create with the North, are there some form of desperation on our part to try and really establish those links? Or are we, North Africa so involved in our own stuff, they really don't feel that the rest of the continent might understand or might really associate or what's the word?
So you're solidarity around that.
Yeah, something like that. So is it that they don't feel that they can get a solidarity from us, or are we always pushing to form this link to the North because it's the new wave? We probably stay to them and
The new it.
Yeah, the new it. So I don't know if you're talking
I think
about
it's a very good
creating.
question.
Yeah, if you're talking about creating those links, are we forcing this sort of solidarity from them because it doesn't seem to emanate from them to us? It's always us trying to.
By we, who do you mean?
For the rest of Africa, but
Yes.
we.
Okay,
we're talking about.
We can speak for Fahamu, we can't speak about the
Yeah.
rest of Africa, or even the rest of Kenya, because we don't know who's speaking to them. But and I'll play the devil's advocate here and say the way they did it in North Africa was not necessarily the right way. It eventually brought the results, but look what's happening in Syria. It's still going on. Egypt is still not healed. I think it was extreme. We can maybe, even if they don't talk to us, it's fine. Even if people don't talk to you, it's fine. You are the one who feels you need support. So there's no problem if I come to you for help, but you don't come to me for help, because you go where you feel you need them. You need to be supported. They don't feel they get support from down here. Actually, I don't even think they got support from anywhere other than from internal, amongst themselves within North Africa.
I sort of disagree with Maggie. I think as Fahamu and as Africa, our biggest challenge is to fight the racism within Africa, so that we view our struggles as common struggles. And the reason North Africa do not view their struggles as our struggles is precisely because of the race factor. And that should challenge us as Fahamu more, because then if we are not dealing, if we are busy criticizing America and Britain and Belgium for doing whatever it is doing in Africa, and really when you look outside our boundaries, there's people who would do much worse to Africans than the West. So in my opinion, the reason we should be looking to North Africa the most is because until the African struggle is solidified so that it's one struggle, then it is very difficult for us to channel the anger to the right person.
And I think we'll have an extended debate
Yes,
around
in the
Pan-Africanism approach. You allow us. Because you learn a lot of historical, not injustices, but propaganda. Yeah, these guys in leadership, they want to associate more with the Arab. It is purposeful. Get money, get protection. And that's why people have been inclined towards the Arab world. Anyway, let's look beyond this Africa. Or are we finished with Africa elsewhere?
Red.
We have more reds here.
That's what we want.
Central Africa.
Central Africa, that's why they are sheltering the people
Because there's no
because there's no
flight. You need to go to France.
Yes,
our
they
people going to Central Africa. We use airlines.
Yes.
Yeah,
You have very you actually good at hiding.
Okay, all.
Yeah, especially I think for some reason, because Nigeria is so huge and so populous. Nigeria, not Nigeria. But then I'm just, it's interesting to see the whole of Russia. Okay, it seems big, but most of it is ice at anyway. But still, I find it very strange that.
I was thinking about this
Yeah.
online because probably in terms of reaching there may not be a strategic one, but at least watching what they are doing. Because if you see, we talked about the issues in North Africa, and Africa has been for a long time a battleground between two ideologies, and they are still there. Yesterday I was working on the emerging powers report, but if you see the way over the last year they wrote off 20 billion USD for some African countries, Mozambique, Nigeria, Ghana, and others. But also in terms of positioning themselves as an emerging power, they are doing. So we may not necessarily go to Russia, but at least just watching how they are, because I think the presence, the political position of Russia has prevented so many disasters in Africa. If just having a voice at the UN saying no, because if the Russians were not supporting Syria now, Assad would have gone. But now that balance of power, probably could say, how do we as Africa benefit from that balance of power, which is now being solidified by Russia and China on one hand, and the rest of the world.
So I think beyond the research that we did on emerging powers, which I don't think Russia is an emerging power, it has been an power, but it is reintroducing itself back in Africa. Re-emerging power in Africa. I think we need to do more around Russia and its influence on Africa, but also there are so many struggles by Africans living in Russia. Racism, hate crime for anti-Russian activists. So maybe you may want to know what's happening around people living in Russia who are from Africa. Any other space that we need to occupy?
Mine is more of a challenge. We say we're in Kenya, yes, but if you walked out and asked the people next door, what do we do? Will they tell you?
No.
So, okay, something like, the solution, the food, when you have food, you check on the food security. I'm thinking, if you did something like that in Kenya, your presence would be felt way much spreader. And not many people are into human rights. Most of them will perceive it as distraction. Like Occupy Parliament. Everybody was like, what the hell is wrong with these people? They crazy. Why are they carrying pigs around? Okay, if you did that on food, I'm thinking we will be much felt. And you will, something much more better. Yes.
And I think the popularity is within movements. So that we are more popular within the movement. And that's where I just personally, it's a personal response. I think the popularity should be within the movement in Kenya. I think we are not more popular in other movements. Everywhere. We might be popular within the AU engagement and within donor community outside, and maybe not the movement.
We are the solution can do that amongst the elements.
Good. Hapo tu. Sawa, where else should we be? We are not. Karibu tunamalizia. Huko tu. Asia, Southeast Asia.
Yes, I was going to say, when you look at countries like, Cambodia, Vietnam, probably they're out of our reach, considering some of these movements are they're not exactly in the city centers, they are open and especially when you look at their sort of livelihoods where it's surrounding rice paddies and such activities. But they also face a lot of struggles, and some of them are actually powerful in how they organize around their own communities to make it work for them, especially in most areas where they're neglected by their own governments. So perhaps raising stories from from those areas, and trying to compare our struggles and see the similarities, and they probably have more success stories than we do in how they do that. I mean, it's very, I'd say simple, but they're making it work for them. So how is it working, considering countries like Vietnam, have political history, wars, and
Right. I think this debate will go on, and we are doing the unpacking of our Pan-African approach. Why we have so many rights now What does it tell us? Yeah, I think we pick it up from there. What lines do we need to do as connecting lines? Where should we not be? Yellow. Just two options. Where should we
No.
never ever?
That's bad.
The United Arab Emirates.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Kat, yes.
Why?
Hey,
Tell us why.
hey.
Because
Arabia.
Because if you're not sexy,
We are not-
okay, I was saying that out of spite. No, these are populations where alright, I was just saying out of spite, but perhaps we should be because no, it's because as much as it despises the way the monarch has really spoiled its citizenry to the point of disabling them, that they have to rely, let's say for example, if a war God forbid broke out in Qatar, they'd be in serious trouble. They don't have a youth or to take up that task if they are called to it. They're just a spoiled citizenry who live in their own bubble and don't know. In fact, they don't even engage with the other parties. You know, they even release that you can see what is happening in the place. Yet they're quite untouched by the struggles of their fellow Muslim sisters and brothers. Just, you know, not so far beyond beyond their borders. So that despite I'm looking at it, the monarch, disabling its citizens and creating this, they're trying now to educate the citizens and make them more involved, but I think it's too late.
We have so many Kenyans who have been reported
Yeah, which
who have
is
been working there. Is there
so. Like I was talking about that particular point of ideological point of view, but completely and work point of view, they have better opportunities than of course our country where you are able to employ your people, and then they get the same opportunities. Somewhere else. The only thing I admire about Qatar, as much as they have spoiled the people, they have created this situation where medical and education is free. You do not, the people are taken care of. And I wish that is one of the models you can employ, because you don't have to get it right in all the sections, but you can get it right in some aspects. So especially for education and medical and housing,
which is the responsibility of the
which is the responsibility of the government, and they have taken wamechukua usukani.
We'll take three more and then we wind up.
No, actually, what I wanted, I say, it's because that, you know, because we can't do everything, we just define, we say we are an African organization. But in terms of building networks, I think we should actually go to the Middle East. If you look at those countries, population is one quarter of the locals and 3/4 of foreigners who are mistreated. So basically, there is slavery in Qatar, in Dubai, in all the Emirates, in Saudi. So you find all these Chinese, Indians, Bangladeshi, and others who are basically being enslaved by 1/4 of the population of the nation. So in terms of creating solidarity, there are many people who are suffering in those places. But because we are Pan-African, I think it's strategic to focus our efforts on the continent, as well as trying to get experiences, networks from outside the continent.
And I know Patita was provoked to think beyond Africa, because we have diaspora. Yeah. And it's huge. Haiti is also another diaspora.
Yeah.
So maybe we also debate on how we engage the diaspora based on our resources and research.
I think UAE is a very hostile ground, and one ironic thing about it is there is a lot of crime that goes on, but what is published in the papers is actually not what is happening. There's rape happening every day. There's people who are silenced for knowing stuff they shouldn't know, and a lot of them are our fellow Kenyans. So I think it's very dangerous ground to tread on unless we have a clear strategy. We may end up having more heads cut off and more people being crushed under the railway lines, and nothing is reported in the media, you know, because these things have happened in the past. So that's why I say no, because I have lost someone that way there, and it was totally covered up and it was never reported. And they ended up at the hospital, and I don't know, they had an accident, but it was actually done by the government because they happened to know stuff they were not supposed to know. And therefore, you know, there's that suppression to not talk about it by eliminating you. I agree with Yves in terms of solidarity, especially for the foreigners that are mistreated, people from Kenya and the other countries. But there's also the fact that a lot of the migrants to the United Arab Emirates end up to be criminals. They are the ones perpetuating crime in Dubai, in countries like Dubai, Qatar.
Yeah.
They are the ones who move there and now start raping women, you know. So then we also need to be very clear in terms of strategy so that we are not reaching out or being in solidarity with people that are moving to other countries and ending up to perpetuate crime.
And I think the engagement we will have in the future is to be creative enough, because silence is also taking a position.
Yeah.
And if you keep quiet, you're also either committing or cooperating with the perpetrators.
I hope we'll also look at the issue of how we do it. Because you're saying where and why. But also we should look at the question of how. And also there's a class issue in the Asian countries, and Arab countries. It's not always about the immigrants, also the class issue of some Asian countries. I think even Qatar has such issues, the class issue. Yeah, but they're discriminated because that's from some kind of
Yeah, I think we should be very, in my view, we should be very focused on our Pan-Africanness, in what we do, so that we don't end up, saying we're creating all these things, and then it doesn't make sense at the end of the day. And what it is we are doing, we can't describe ourselves as Pan-African, So I think we should, whichever place we choose to focus any energy should be linked to the Pan-African vision. Having said that, I think there's a number of interesting countries, very few interesting countries that we need to think very much about how we engage. I think there's Israel, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Cuba, and some other countries.
So yellow is officially interesting countries,
Yeah,
we don't
yeah.
want.
I think there's those countries for a number of reasons. I think Qatar is emerging as a very interesting country because of all the meddling all over Africa. And Saudi Arabia. Very small country, but causing a lot of chaos everywhere. And they're buying up land as well. I think they're the ones who are buying up land, Masai land, to kill lions, and leopards. Tana River as well. And I think they are.
Ethiopia, they have.
In Tanzania, they buy land, or rather they sign leases about 99 years.
I think
For shooting and
Yes.
that there's that. I think Iran is emerging as an alternative voice, as the what are they called? The non-aligned countries, one of the leading voices. So I think there's interesting things to think about. Cuba, I think Cuba is historically has been a very sort of independent country, which is rare. there's no country that is not small, not Ethiopia, but a small country.
Island.
Yeah, Venezuela as well, yes. Another thing, I think the immigration angle is very interesting. I think Catherine said something very controversial. I must say that immigrants commit crimes, and I think that's in a lot of the reasons why I don't know. I think it's a bit racist because black people are aggressive. They do this. I don't know. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying it's of course there's people who are moving from one area to another. There's always elements of some are criminals running away.
It's not a generalized.
Yeah, but I think that's especially I think that is the reason why they were deporting people. One of the reasons they were deporting people from Israel because of criminals. So yeah. So
I think Roy said something that I like when he said how we do things. For example, with Mambazuka, we have physical offices, but because we work online, we are able to reach in many places. If you look at, for example, the last 3 years, all the special issues that we have been publishing on Amazon, they have not had any borders. Wherever there was a social injustice, there was already articles talking about that. For example, we have had a special issue on Venezuela because of service. We have had special issues on Bangladesh, not special, but many articles because of these employees who died. We have had many stories on other countries wherever the editorial team will see that there is some injustice which need to be highlighted. So I want also to include that based on the nature of the work we do, which can spread all of that, there is that ability of working on something even if you are not physically there.
So as I invite you to, I have the privilege of inviting you to take feedback. As we do that, Lisa is organizing for us. I think in wrapping whatever Jojo was doing up, one, really what Zoo said is true. Pambazuka, just because that Pambazuka is a jewel on Fahamu's crown. Because most of the blues we've noted, especially the ones that are are as a result of Pambazuka. And now, I think the important thing for us, like Paul says, which is narrowing our agenda down, is the political consciousness of our people, of Africans, wherever they are, right? So that, for instance, when Catherine says something about them going abroad, and the political consciousness of our people will probably hinder some of the things that are happening today in Qatar, Iraq, or wherever it is that they are. So, for us, as we look at the blues, the reds, the interesting areas, the political consciousness is what is important to us. Secondly, as we think about the reds, which is where we want to go, where we want to spread our wings, what stands out for me then is how do we use the most, for lack of a better word, the most functioning pillar of Fahamu, which is PC again, right? To reach out, because by most functioning I mean most known. Paul has almost thrown the cup. But the most known, how do we use Pambazuka to reach out? Because I find, like you were talking about specific focuses, I find that to be a much easier way of testing the grounds, as opposed to just deciding all of a sudden, oh yeah, we're going to start a project in Tunisia, for instance. So it's sad that Henry is not here, but hopefully this is something that we can capture in the report, so that as we move forward, somebody has, for instance, I think it was Edwin, or I don't know who had suggested, when we were having a debate about Kenya and how blind we are to some of the things that are happening. Someone had suggested, why aren't we doing a special edition of PC on Kenya? because all of a sudden, anyway, that is bringing conversation around Kenya. But moving forward, maybe that is something we need to sit down with PC as testing ground. How do we make connections with the regions that we talked about? As being the regions we want to move forward, how do we strengthen where we are? What are we focusing on? etc. etc. That was, how was that exercise? Was it helpful? Yes. So I invite you to have tea, then we can come and have the